Israel at war with Iran. That's the topic of today's Bold and Blunt, and I'm your host, Cheryl Chumley, giving you a Christian conservative look at today's news, politics, culture, and events. The latest, death toll grows as Israel and Iran trade attacks for the third day, going into the fourth day. That's the headline from Associated Press. Fox News. Just an hour ago, Iranian strikes on Israel escalate, killing at least 24 and damaging U.S. embassy. The New York Times also just recently. Iran and Israel trade fire as conflict enters day 4. The Guardian, a headline also just recently. Iran and Israel trade attacks amid reports Tehran could be seeking talks. Well, isn't that interesting? Maybe Iran is coming back to the table with President Donald Trump, or is it Russia President Vladimir Putin to discuss the fate of Iran's nuclear program? So, we'll see. Is that what it takes? Israel bombing the crap out of Iran, and now all of a sudden Iran wants to talk peace and safety and security. And next thing you know, there'll be statements coming out about how much Iran loves the Jewish people, respects the Jewish people, and does not want death to Israel, as they chant oh so frequently in the street. Before I get into more of that, I'd like to quickly mention, if you like Bold and Blunt, you may get Bold and Blunt at edify.app, at Real Life Network. That is the faith-based news outreach of Pastor Jack Hibbs's Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills Church in California. That's a little bit of a tongue twister. But RLN, Real Life Network, such a great news source, especially if you are a Christian or you are a believer and you're looking to make sense of what's going on in today's world through a biblical perspective. Isn't that what we need? So that's why Real Life Network was created, so that believers can see what's taking place in news, in politics, and culture on the international stages, and sort of filter them through the prism of biblical truths. And in so doing, not only do you get at a deeper truth of what the, say, wars and conflicts or politics are all about, but you also get a deeper understanding that should bring a sense of calm, that things aren't as chaotic, aren't as random as they sometimes present in the news, that there is, in fact, a sovereign entity in charge, and his name is Jesus Christ. You may also get Bold and Blunt at Washington Times, washingtontimes.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, find the newsletter section, click on it, and you will see fairly quickly, just scroll down a little, Bold and Blunt with Cheryl Chumley. That's my newsletter. Yep, that's my newsletter. And if you sign up just by entering your email address, you will get delivered right to your email box. My newsletter contains my commentaries that I write for the Washington Times every day, as well as my twice weekly Tuesday and Thursday Bold and Blunt podcast. And if you've been a regular listener to Bold and Blunt, you know the last couple episodes I have mentioned that you're definitely going to want to sign up for Bold and Blunt, because you'll get my live from the scene on the ground reports, both video and audio from Israel, because I had planned a 3+ week trip to Israel. I'm supposed to be there right now as I speak, as a matter of fact, but just hours before I was due to leave, of course, Israel's airport was closed and there are no flights. So we don't know how long that's going to last. But my trip to Israel has been delayed. But you can still get Bold and Blunt. Don't let that stop you, right? Sign up for it. Subscribe to it. Because you're going to get great news also from a Christian perspective that you won't get anywhere else. Guess what? You can get Bold and Blunt wherever podcasts are available. All right, so let's look at some of what's going on. I'll just click on AP News. AP, Associated Press, right? They're the news of the world, the wire of the world. Iran missile attacks on Israel kill 8. Israel warns some Tehran residents to evacuate before strike. So look at that. Look at that. Even the Associated Press is making clear that Israel is not targeting the civilian population in Iran. Israel is very carefully, with strategic precision. How do you like that? That's pretty cool, right? That just popped in my head. With strategic precision. Now, if I could only say it, they are targeting Iran's military capabilities. They are targeting Iran's nuclear capabilities, because their goal is not to kill Iran's citizens, not to kill and decimate Iran's population, but rather stop Iran from getting nuclear bomb capabilities, right? And isn't that something that all the world, all the peaceful players of the world would like to have happened, right? Would like to see happen. So in that sense, Israel's war is civil society's war. Israel's war is definitely America's war. If you listen to what comes out of the Middle East, especially Iran, it's death to Israel, death to America, death to the West. And these aren't just random chants that are thrown out there, especially during Friday prayer time, right? These are actual marching orders. These are actual political and military strategies of Iran's players, of Iran's radicals. They would love to wipe Israel off the face of the map, along with all the Jewish people, not just in Israel, but of the world, around the world, to completely annihilate the Jewish people. And then once they've checked that off their list, it's on to America they go. It's on to America, right? Big Satan. Little Satan and big Satan. Israel, little Satan. America, big Satan. And to do the same here in America. And then once they check that off their list, which, come on, that's not going to happen because America is the best. But once they check that off their list, they think in their crazed minds that then they'll move on to all of Western society, right? That they will just crumble all of Western society after annihilating all the Jewish people and bring about some Islamic regime around the world. Well, first and foremost, Israel can never be wiped off the face of the map. You know why? Because the Bible tells us that, right? Once God brought back and reestablished the Jewish nation as he promised in the Bible, he also said it's not going to be annihilated, right? And so this happened in 1948. Israel created on the map. And since then, it has been under pretty much daily, minute by minute attack from surrounding hostile nations. And yet it stands, this tiny little speck of a nation among these huge giants of nations, of enemies who are constantly shooting missiles and sending in drones and doing whatever they can to strategize to destroy the Jewish people, constantly fending off these attacks, and it still stands. And if you talk to people who live in Israel or who have relatives who live in Israel, then they will tell you that every time there's an attack on their nation, a military attack, they see God's miracles at work. That it's not just the Iron Dome that America has supplied and continues to fund. It's not just the greatness of the IDF of Israel's military, and it's not just the lurking support called America in the background, ready to come in at signs of takeover of Israel and swoop in and defend Israel from those enemies. It's the fact that God has established Israel, and the Jewish people are God's chosen people for specific missions that he has planned, and that no matter how great the military opposition is to Israel, Israel ain't going away. It's just not going to happen. That doesn't mean that Jewish people don't suffer and innocent Jewish people don't die and become injured in the process of God working out his design. In a recent press conference that I was invited to attend, organized in part at least by the American Middle East Press Association and involving several Israel officials who spoke on record, as I understand it, about what's going on in Israel in real time. The casualties so far in Israel are between 24 and 25. This press conference was Monday morning, so it's a few hours old, so maybe the casualties have gone up, but over 1,300 Jewish people injured as well. And look, the goal here of Israel against Iran is to dismantle its nuclear capabilities, not permanently, but enough so that it sets back Iran's ability to develop nuclear weaponry by 2 to 3 years, right? Because there are several sites over there where enrichment programs go forth, and there are several nuclear operations, development operations taking place in Iran that are being conducted deep underground. So it's very difficult to destroy completely these operations. I speak of Fordow specifically. They can fire rockets, they can fire missiles, they can strike at several of these nuclear sites, nuclear development sites above ground, and maybe even disrupt some of the underground, beneath surface type of development programs that are taking place, but they can't get them all out very easily. So the Israeli officials on this press conference said that there is a triple threat that they are trying to counter here with their ongoing attacks against Iran. The first is the nuke threat, right? I just told you that. The second is the ballistic threat, right? Iran has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ballistic missiles, all of which that it really wants to fire off at Israel, and they're doing a great job of that right now. They have thousands, and it would be good if Israel was able to take out some of the launching capabilities of these ballistic missiles. You don't have to destroy all the missiles, just take out the launching capabilities, and what's Iran going to do with them, right? Heave ho, go. Heave ho across the border into Israel. That's not going to happen. And they also want to eliminate some of the top military command of Iran, the IRDG, which they have, right? Which they have. And look, they're doing a favor. Israel's war is America's war, is the West's war, is all of civil society's war, right? They're doing a favor for all the world by launching what some call preemptive strikes. I see them more as reactive strikes against long-time attacks by Iran and its proxies against Israel. But they have launched what some are calling preemptive strikes as a way of ridding an evil that confronts the entire world. It's not just Israel here, right? It's Israel and the rest of civil society who gain with the destruction of Iran's nuclear capabilities. And so that's what's going on the latest, according to recent headlines and the press conference organized by, as I said, the American Middle East Press Association. But for more from somebody who has a variety of people on the ground in Israel, I want to say that today's guest is Dr. Susan Michael, and she is the president of the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem. As president of that organization, she has been involved with helping Israel and Israelis for decades now. And as we speak, she has scores of people on the ground who say that even with all this chaos and disaster and war and threat and fear, Israelis, the Israeli people, are standing strong. That's the resilience that we hear about from the Jewish people. Dr. Susan Michael, I want to thank you so much for being on Bold and Blonde. It's so great to have you here.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So you serve as president of the International Christians Embassy Jerusalem and also director of American Christian Leaders for Israel. What's your take in what's going on in Israel right now? And first off, are you in Israel?
No, I am based in the United States, so I am here. Our headquarters is in Jerusalem. We were founded in 1980. When all the embassies moved out of Jerusalem, we formed the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem. And so we've had boots on the ground for 45 years. And right now we have a staff of close to 50 that are in their shelters along with all the people of Israel. Do not leave, did not leave, of course, could not leave with flights canceled, but they wouldn't leave anyway. They are there to be a comfort and a help to the people. And so our hearts just go out to the people of Israel with what's going on. But I think we would agree with what they would tell you, which is this is just necessary. We've got to stop Iran from going nuclear, and this is just a necessary part of that effort. So our prayers are with them.
There's a narrative that I don't like that is sort of sneaking through the media, because you have to watch how the propaganda war in all things Israel plays out. That's huge, right? And it says that Israel's attack on Iran was preemptive. What do you say in response to that?
Well, it was preemptive in that they knew that Iran was just within days away from having the nuclear capability, and that Iran had been threatening them for how many years now? 20, 30 years, threatening that this is their intention. And then just recently, Israel had uncovered intelligence that they plan to equip their proxies in the area, such as Hezbollah and Hamas, with nuclear capability. So this would bring about the destruction of Israel. It had to be stopped before they actually had the weapons. And so in that way, it was a preemptive strike, knowing that a strike was imminent, and that strike would be a nuclear one. So thankfully, all of these missiles that are terrifying in themselves, at least they're not nuclear missiles. That's what Israel is stopping.
But on the other hand, if you really look at the history that's taken place with the attacks on Israel, it wasn't so much preemptive as just a reaction to Iran's proxy attack with Hamas. Would you agree with that?
Well, yes, absolutely. Israel has been attacked by Iran through its proxies for how many years? And then recently, of course, by Iran directly. With the earlier missile strikes back in April. So yes, in that regard, I understand what you're saying. I would say it was only preemptive in terms of stopping a nuclear attack that was pending. But you're right. They've been suffering from Iranian attacks for many years.
Either way, it was genius. Yes, the strategies that are coming out that the Israeli military forces have taken, really, they're going to go down in history, in human history, as one of the most strategic attacks, most brilliant strategy employed.
Yes, but unfortunately, before that history becomes history, they're going to be maligned for it. And the same thing happened back in the 80s when they attacked the Iraqi nuclear site. Everybody came against Israel. This was terrible. But later, behind closed doors, and then later out in the open, 10 years later out in the open, people were saying, thankfully, Israel did that and saved the world from a nuclear Iraq. So the same thing will happen now. But initially, she has to go through this period of people condemning her. But later, they'll all be so thankful and already are behind closed doors.
So you say you have about 50 people on the ground right now in Israel. Are you in contact with them? Have the communications still flowed? And what are you hearing from them?
Oh, yes, we're in constant contact. I just was on a Zoom call with about 75 of our world leaders, and we were hearing briefings from our staff. Thanks to WhatsApp, we're all just in constant contact. Our aid department, which does our humanitarian aid outreaches, has been down in Bat Yam, which suffered the worst missile attack thus far, if I have that right. But there were 22 buildings there that actually are destroyed. They're going to have to be torn down and rebuilt, and another 50 that are damaged, if I have the numbers right. And so, but we're on the ground there to assess what is it that we can do. There are 2,500 people that are homeless at the moment just from Bat Yam. And that's about 200 children that are traumatized. We have elderly that left without medications and all. And so we're just there providing small helps as we can, larger helps as we're able to. And then once they start rebuilding, we want to be there for the long run. But there's going to be many needs throughout the country. And we're doing everything that we can. Nevertheless, understanding many of our staff also have to run for the bomb shelters like everybody else. But when not in the shelters, they're out helping the people.
So where do those homeless and displaced go? Do they go to families? Do they get moved into Jerusalem, in hotels? Where do they go?
Well, I think all of the above. They go anywhere that they can, and the Israeli government has to be opening up hotels for them. And there's going to be a growing need for this and a growing number of them.
So I was in Israel. I've been in Israel twice now. The latest was a couple months after Hamas attacked. And one of the things that I noticed in Israel was that everybody just went about their business, even though the hostages were still heavy on their hearts and minds and prayers. And I just wonder about this resilience that we hear about the Jewish people. Is it something that your people are seeing right now on the ground? Or is there more of a panicked type of atmosphere that has stolen over Israel?
From what I'm hearing, Cheryl, there is such resolve in the people of Israel, and they have all united. There was such divisions and so many against the government, for the government, all of this. They have united. They're completely in support of the government now because they understand this was so necessary. And so, yes, while it's bringing about a little bit of fear, a little bit of danger, some loss of lives, they see it as a necessary trouble that they must go through. And I have been just getting reports. I had a friend send me even videos of Jewish people in the shelters, cowering under a tunnel in Jerusalem where your car was safe in the tunnel, or even in private homes where they're not allowed to gather, but yet they're singing and they're worshiping and they're proclaiming the scriptures. And I believe that is the source of strength for the Jewish people and for the people of Israel. And it's not one of just emotional strength or this or that, but there is deep down, there is a understanding of right and wrong and of what the Torah and the Bible proclaims as right and wrong, and that they're in the right, and that gives them resolve, and that they have so many beautiful prayers that they can pray to God for protection. I believe that's what's giving them strength today.
And first off, detail a little bit more specifics what your two organizations do and how Americans might be able to help at this time.
Well, it's really one organization,
Okay.
And that's the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem. As I said, we were founded in Jerusalem. That's our headquarters. The focus of our organization is Christian support for Israel. But we have a presence in over 90 countries, and we have a reach into 183 countries. These are very real numbers. So our presence out in the nations, like for me, I'm the United States president for the ICEJ. My role is number one, fundraising for our projects in Israel. So right now we're fundraising for the assistance that our organization is giving in Israel. Secondly, to educate the Christians in my nation. And thirdly is for advocacy, to take a public stand for Israel when we need to. It's not our focus. We're not a registered lobby, but sometimes we need to take a public stand. And because of that, we began to collaborate with other Christian leaders and doing a public stand together so that we unite our voice. And eventually we just gave our network a name, the American Christian Leaders for Israel. So it's a network that I manage. And it's a platform so that when there is an issue, we can do a letter to the president or we can do some initiative together and we pass it around, and we can get easily 150 Christian leaders to sign off on letters because of our relationship through this network. And right now, this year, we have been so busy with so many important initiatives for Israel. And it's so important because no one organization can speak on behalf of the 50, 60 million Christians in America that support Israel. But when we unite our voice and we come together, we actually really are representing that world and speaking for it and speaking to it. So that's the purpose of our leadership network.
At this point, does your network have a position on what this White House's response should be going forward?
Well, we are actually working on that today. And because it's a network, I don't really speak on its behalf. But when we agree to do a letter or a statement and they sign off on it, I can speak on behalf of those that sign that statement. But we are looking at a statement that we can put together this week that does back that there needs to be change in Iran for the good of the people. There's been a very oppressive regime, oppressing Christians, oppressing women, oppressing any dissidents, and that needs to come to an end. And so we're asking the United States to support Israel in this and help bring about a really quick change in Iran and bring down this power so that the people are free. Like I say, I can speak on my behalf at this moment, but we're working on some wording that we can pass around and get signatures on.
So specifically, do you mean going after Ayatollah and assassinating his leadership, assassinating him?
No, I'm not getting into any specifics, but I am saying that for the United States to not just stand in the background and say, well, we support Israel in what Israel's doing, but actually to get involved and help Israel. And what they decide to do is up to them. But we're just calling for greater involvement and collaboration.
So Christians understand the significance of Israel, at least they should, if they're Bible-reading Christians. But what do you say to people in America who say, who cares about Israel? Why should we care about Israel more than we care about any other nation of the world?
Well, I've been traveling to Israel for 48 years. That does begin to date me, but I know the people, I know the country, I know what they're up against. And I can tell the American people that Israel is on the front lines of our battle. And if Israel were to fall, these jihadist elements and the radical Iranian regime would just come after us next. They are involved first with Israel. But believe me, if Israel fell, they'd come right after us next. We're the big Satan. So we have to recognize that. That's why we must support Israel. And they must win. They must be victorious over these evil forces. And now I will say, Cheryl, I mean, not just Christians, but any good-hearted American, which there's a lot of us, hate war. We all hate war. We don't want to see war. Neither does Israel. My father was a World War II vet. War is ugly. Nobody's in favor of it, but it is a necessary thing when governments must protect their people. Even the New Testament says that a government must take up the sword to defend their people against evil. And so it's a necessary thing that we must just recognize and make sure that we pray for our leaders, that they have wisdom, that they make the right decisions. But sometimes they need to hear from their people too. And that's when we speak up, just to support them and to help guide them in these days.
Last question, because I know our time is short, but have you heard on the ground that the thankfulness of the Israeli people that it's Donald Trump in charge right now instead of Joe Biden or a Barack Obama type?
Oh, yes, we're very grateful that Trump is the president now, and none of this could have even happened had he not been president. Biden was just appeasing Iran, releasing billions of dollars to Iran, lifted the sanctions on Iran, strengthened Iran. So in a way, you could say that the American government was a part of preparing the way for the October 7th attack. If we had not strengthened Iran, they wouldn't have been able to strengthen their proxy, Hamas. So now we have a president that has stopped all of that. He did try to negotiate an agreement, just because what I just said, we all hate war. He doesn't want war. He tried to come up with a peaceful way to resolve the situation, but it failed. And he understood that. He said, I gave him 60 days, and they didn't come to the plate. So on the 61st day, they were attacked. And that's the kind of strength that we need coming from the White House. And it's the kind of strength we need coming from Israel. And that's what we see today. We're very grateful for it.
Dr. Susan Michael, it was so great to be able to chat with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And that's another Bold and Blunt. Remember, if you like Bold and Blunt, you may get Bold and Blunt at edify.app, at Real Life Network, at WashingtonTimes.com, and of course, wherever podcasts are available. Tune in next time. In the meanwhile, don't forget, stay blunt, stay bold.